The following program is intended to educate and inform. We discuss cannabis being used as medicine, the culture, science, and controversy of cannabis and cannabis laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity. Moth Networks and their associates do not claim to be lawyers or doctors, nor do they represent themselves as such. All their comments and views are of their own personal opinion and personal experiences. Opinions and claims made by the guests and advertisers on Moth Networks are their own, and all parties agree to the Moth Network use and policy agreement. Moth Network and Moth Network associates cannot be held legally responsible for the statements of the host or of their guests. We encourage all listeners to learn their constitution, to assert their rights, acknowledge their duties, and know their individual state laws.
Live on iHeartRadio, powered by 710 Radio. This is The Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo. So grab you a pen and a paper, kick your feet up, and get ready for some serious knowledge to be dropped on you. Because Kimberly Mateo is a nationally certified naturopath, master herbalist, iridologist, a nutritionist, and a holistic healer since 1977. She shares 35 plus years of knowledge and experience to listeners who are interested in learning and overcoming health challenges naturally. So without further delay, here is the host of your show, Kimberly Mateo.
Hi, welcome back. Thanks for joining me today. This is Kimberly Mateo, and you're listening to Kingdom of Healing. This week I want to talk about nutrition, and, it all really boils down to the absorption, and I've done some past shows on some of the early shows, especially the first one on the pH balancing, and that might be one that you refer back to. It goes through... I covered a lot of the fruits and vegetables and the pH balance where those foods came up on the chart. And last week, or about a week and a half ago, I had realized that there was another inbox on my Facebook. And I clicked onto that, and I was having difficulty with communicating back and forth with someone. And since they, at that time, wasn't my friend on Facebook, it was coming up in the other box, the other inbox. And so when I discovered that, I also discovered that there were a lot of requests for more nutrition on the show. Right. And it dated all the way back to like the end of June of last year. So, yeah, there was an incredible amount of requests. So, you can pick the shows up on the Facebook page, Kingdom of Healing.
Yes, and please leave your comments and questions there as well. If you private messaged Kim and for some oddball reason hasn't responded, please leave it. You don't have to go to detail. Just hey Kim, I've been trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
And that way we can get that question
address the issue
much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly, and I think that the Facebook page makes it really easy for a lot of people to pull the shows up, because with iHeart and Spreaker, some people who are not real computer savvy, they have a hard time with those two programs.
Really?
And especially picking it up on their phone.
I know about Spreaker. I didn't realize that about iHeart as well.
Yeah, and it's just really kind of one of those things of understanding their Android phone.
Gotcha.
And and sometimes, hey, those phones too get viruses on them. And your Android phones, oh yeah, they can get viruses just like your computer. And maybe you have access to the internet, your phone is equipped with that, but due to a virus, it's blocking you being able to get on to the internet, and you keep having this weird stuff come up on there that it's like, where did this page come from? Who is this? I don't want this. I didn't download it, but it's there. And you can't get on the internet to access, Spreaker or iHeart. I would suggest downloading that particular app. And both of them have an app. iHeart and Spreaker. Yes. Both have an app for your phone. And that would make it a lot easier so that you don't have to type in that web address into that browser. Okay, so I would strongly recommend that for those of you out there with Android phones. And
we will have a Kingdom of Healing app coming up pretty soon where you just download that Kingdom of Healing app, and then you can just tap on it, and plus it'll notify them once your show goes live, but that will be coming very soon as well.
Really?
So, yes.
Oh, wow. You never cease to amaze me.
Well,
I came in and was surprised with the Facebook page, and that is just so many people are on Facebook, and it just makes it so easy. And you can get that going and click on one of the shows. You don't have to just sit there and listen.
Right.
You can bring up another page.
That's true.
Go back into your Facebook. You can go back in and go through your Facebook while you're listening.
There is a lot of shows on there.
Yeah, and so that's a way that you can be still doing other things on the computer, and then but listening to the show as well. Open another app or drop that down. There's ways that you can keep that continuing on. So a lot of requests for nutrition, and herbs are high in nutrition as well. And starting next week, I'm going to get more into the herbs and their properties and why we use them and what we use them for. So today I kind of want to go through some juicing things, and I want to talk a little bit about celiac disease and leaky gut syndrome, and give you a basic gluten-free all-purpose flour mix that you can make. Or it's a gluten-free flour mix, and then certainly you add to it your baking powder. Make sure you're buying aluminum-free baking powder. There is, specifically aluminum-free out there, and you want to use that. Yeah,
I did not realize
baking
that.
powder is full of aluminum.
I did not realize.
Yeah, and any salt that you use, if you've listened to any of my shows, you've heard me say it before. Is the Himalayan salt, which is the pink salt, and it has 85 different minerals and trace minerals. And what's nice is that they are in the proper balance of minerals that was intended by a very wise creator. And, we are the dust of the earth. We are made from the dust of the earth. When you analyze specifically the ashes of man after they've been cremated, you find that the mineral balance is identical to a fertile clump of soil. And so your mineral ratio in your Himalayan salt also comes up in that perfect balance of ratio of minerals and trace minerals. So, our diet, we want our diet to be 80% alkaline, 20% acid. And the foods that we find in the acid category is all of your meats. fish, fowl, eggs, cheeses. Those are acidic or slightly acidic. The things that are highly, highly acidic that you don't want in your diet is like the energy drinks. You know, they're 2.2 to 2.5 on the pH scale, and at 3.5 is your pH when you die. So you don't want to be consuming high amounts of these variety of different brand of energy drinks because of their acid level at 2.2 to 2.5. You know, they're health damaging. Your fake sugars, you know, they're poison. They're those right spin sugars that feed abnormal cells, feed renegade cells that are continuing to multiply and divide, and they've forgotten, you know, they've lost their DNA, and that's why they continue to mutate. One of the things, amazingly enough, there's a lot of information that's been published on frankincense. And if you'll take like 1 teaspoon of frankincense to 3 tablespoons of coconut oil, and just mix that together really, really well, and put that in a wide mouth jar, and anywhere that you're dealing with a problem, you know, if your intestinal tract's bothering you a lot, you know, rub that on the abdominal area. If you're dealing with a situation of abnormal cells, you know, and you know what I'm talking about, the frankincense, what it does is it corrects the DNA in the cell. So if you're having trouble with a particular organ, rub this frankincense and coconut oil directly over where that organ lies beneath the skin. And that's absorbed through the skin, and it does make its way to that organ. The bloodstream ends up picking it up. So frankincense, and the ratio on that is 1 teaspoon, which is 20 drops, 20 drops of frankincense, to 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. And then mix that together. And, you know, also put that on your feet, because your largest pores on our body is on our feet. So you rub that on your feet as well, and that's pulled up through the system. It's literally absorbed and pulled up through the system. So frankincense and coconut oil. So I just wanted to add that in. I want to talk a little bit here. You know, we are what we absorb. And the beginning series on the systems of the body, the beginning of the year, was the digestive system. So if you go back to that show on the digestive system, the first one in January, that goes through everything and explains the digestive tract. I want to talk about celiac disease. You know, I'm going to give you some couple recipes here with gluten-free mixes, but you know, how have we got to this point with all this gluten-free? The problem is that the crossbreeding and making supposedly trying to improve upon what we were given, you know, the hybrids, then we have the genetically modified organisms, the GMO, and what has happened is the actual protein, the gluten protein, which is gliadin, that it's a reaction to the gliadin, which is this protein, a gluten protein, and it's found in high amounts in wheat and barley and rye. It's also in corn. It's in soy, and the majority of the corn in the United States, unless it's specifically marked non-GMO organic, it is GMO. the wheat is GMO. But what's happened is the higher level of gluten that's found in those grains. And what happens is, what has happened is, we have 1 in 133 Americans that are suffering with celiac disease. And celiac is when the little villi, the little hair-like fibers that stay nice and round and absorb, when the food comes through, it absorbs these nutrients, and it absorbs them, and it gets them into the bloodstream, so that it can be carried throughout the system through the blood to the cells and ultimately to the organs. And what ends up happening is, with the immune response, with the high lymphocyte count that goes out in attack to this response, the villi flatten, and they're not able to absorb anything, and so that creates the gut inflammation. So if, after you have a bowl of cereal, within a half an hour or an hour, if your intestinal tract is causing you a problem, and you have a stomach ache or you have stomach pain, then, that's a very good sign. And if it happens on a continual basis every time you take in grains and you have that reaction, you've got celiac disease or the beginnings of, or, leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut is part of celiac. And, they just got a lot of different names for a lot of things that have the same symptoms. And that's what they do. They take all these symptoms and then they end up giving it a name. And, they're working on drugs to try to take care of this. And really, quite frankly, you don't need a drug to take care of the inflammation reaction of the inability to digest down this gluten. You don't need a drug that's going to come with side effects to take care of this. You need to get it out of your diet. You need to just get rid of it. And there are gluten-free grains, and that's what I'll share with with the flour mix, is that you need 40%, you need a 40-60 ratio in order, when you're working with a wheat product, just the elasticity and the dough and the way that it holds its structure and its baking ability with everything working together, and it arises properly, and your yield is a good tasting bread or cake or something like that. But these are so adulterated. They've been just so adulterated over the last 50 years that what our grandparents and great-grandparents didn't, and some out there parents, didn't deal with this type of a reaction to wheat, because it wasn't happening yet with this excess over-the-top levels of gluten in the dairy products. The other problem too, and I've talked about that when I was talking about the glandular system, how in prior to 1970, they used a derivative of iodine. They had iodine that was in the bakery goods.
Right.
And what ended up happening then in the 70s was they took the iodine out and they replaced it with bromelain. Well, bromelain is in the same atomic family as iodine, but iodine's the only one that's good for you. The bromelain's a toxin. It blocks the iodine absorption and utilization in the body. So hence we have all of these problems with thyroid issues. Lots of goiters and Graves' disease. And Graves' disease is something that falls in the approximately 300 symptoms of the celiac disease. Crohn's disease, colitis. It's all part of it. It's all part of it. So one of the first recipes I want to give you, because the immune system, that's where everything's happening. This is an immune response, this inflammation that happens with this. So, one of the things is that the majority of our immune system is in our gut, and it's in the small intestines. And so the thing is that it's really important to make sure that you have the good bacteria, and you're introducing that good bacteria. And the best way to introduce that is, in America we call it kefir, and it's actually pronounced kefir. Kefir. And but what I want to give you here is a recipe for almond milk kefir, and it is extremely easy to make. Okay. A lot of this almond milk at the stores, if you read the label, there's stuff in it you don't need. So the best thing to do is when your health food stores, including Whole Foods, and if you're in states that have Sprouts, what I love about Sprouts is, they'll have their weekly sales and stuff with nuts and stuff, but they'll usually always have one organic raw nut. And I've talked about this before. You want your nuts and seeds raw. You don't want them toasted and roasted and sprinkled with this and that, and a lot of that stuff they've sprinkled it with is, there's monosodium glutamate. That's another one of those things that it's disguised by numerous different names. Monosodium glutamate, so protein yeast and stuff like that, and there's a lot of different names. So, okay, so the raw cultured almond milk. To make almond milk, you're going to take 2 cups of raw almonds, and then if you have a alkaline water machine, you're going to use that on the highest setting, because you really want this alkaline end product. And so it's just very healing and very nourishing. And so you're going to take 7 to 8 cups of either alkaline water or purified water. Is it Fuji? Fuji is 7.5 of the bottled waters. So you want to use something along that line. 7.5 is good. You're at least in the alkaline range there. And you're going to soak that overnight, or you're going to soak them at least for 4 hours, but, at 6 to 8, and actually overnight, and getting a little sidetracked in the morning is good. I get some nice and soft. And what you're going to do then is you're going to rinse. You're going to rinse all of that out of there. All the water, you're going to drain all of that, and then take those nice soft almonds and put them back into a blender. And even the juicing that I'm going to talk about in this show, you just need a good, strong blender. You don't need to go out and spend $150 and $500 on a lot of these other units. You don't need to. You can buy a really good blender. And the old juicers used to juice it. You'd get the juice out one side, and then you get all the good stuff, all the fiber and the bioflavonoids and everything like that. Is coming out in the waste side of it. So put that back into the juice and add some water to reconstitute it. Get some purified water in it. So you're gonna cover with alkaline water or filtered water, not tap water. Anything but tap water, okay? No tap water. And no distilled.
Right.
Okay, because distilled has no minerals or anything in it. So you're gonna take the 2 cups of raw almonds. You're gonna completely cover them in water. You're gonna soak them 4 to 12 hours. Then you're gonna drain them, put them in a blender, and then you're going to put about 8 cups again of purified water, alkaline water, and you're going to hit that on blend, the highest setting. And you can start out with about 3 cups of water with the almonds, and blend that until it's really, really, really smooth. That way it's kind of thick, and it's actually making a paste, and you can add a little more water, another cup of water to it, and gradually add a cup at a time, so that you want everything smooth. You don't want any little chunks. If you throw it in and you put all 8 cups in it, you're probably going to have some little particle chunks and stuff like that in it. Okay, so you want it really smooth. So once you put those softened, and they don't, the almonds, you can use cashews. You can make cashew milk. You can do a variety. If you want more calcium added to this,
like a macadamia nut.
Yeah, you can do that. You can make a mixture of the nuts. Also seeds, sesame seeds, organic raw, unhulled sesame seeds. Those, they're extremely high in calcium. They have the highest content of calcium. So a tablespoon of sesame seeds has as much calcium as a quart of milk.
Interesting.
So throw a couple tablespoons of sesame seeds in with the soaking of the nuts or whatever nuts. You want 2 cups of nuts. You can throw a couple tablespoons of sesame seeds in there. And okay, so then once you strain that and you put it into the blender, put about 3 cups of alkaline or purified water into the blender, and blend that on kind of a medium speed, and get that all pureed together and nice and smooth, and then continue to add a cup at a time. You might need a rubber spatula or something to kind of get the water mixed in there at first, but blend that all up. If you want, you can put a tiny little bit, a pinch. I mean, there's not even a measurement on it. It's a pinch of stevia, for a sweetener. Something that helps really kind of bring the flavor out is adding a little bit of salt. So, you can put a pinch or 2 pinches of the Himalayan salt in that. And just blend that, incorporate that really well together. Then when you take that out, use some cheesecloth. Put the cheesecloth over a pitcher and pour 5-6 layers of the cheesecloth, and then pour that through that so that it holds back any of the little whole shells from the sesame seeds. It holds back those particles of the skin that were on the nuts, on the outer covering of the nut. So you're holding that back. Then what you do with that is you add in 4 capsules of the probiotic 11. And if you go to kingdomofhealing.com, you can order the probiotic 11, and you can also get some lactobacillus as well, probiotic. And so you're going to put 2 of those into the adding with the probiotic 11, and open and empty those capsules, and then just stir that. Don't use any metal. Just stir that with a plastic spoon, and stir that up into there, and just put some cheesecloth over the top of it, and you're going to just leave it out on the counter for about 12 hours. And you want it about 70 degrees. So if it runs a little cool in your house, wrap a towel up around it. Get it warm. Put some towels up around it. And you want it at about 70 degrees. You're going to leave it there for about 12 hours. And on the top, it's going to get, I'll have kind of a frothy yellow foam on the top of that, and that thick layer of that. I just stir that back into it. Just stir it up back into it is the best thing to do with that. Some people like to take it off, but it's if there's just really a thin layer, the thicker that, kind of like if you're pouring a beer and you got a head on the beer. Okay, so if you don't have a good head on the top of this cultured milk that you're making, then it's not good enough yet. It's not strong enough. Okay, so you can take a little bit of that out to start. You only need the initial 4 probiotic 11 and 2 lactobacillus. You only need you could even put the lactase, a couple of them in there as well, so that lactase enzyme cultures as well in that, because that's what you need in order to break down the milk sugar, the lactose, all your OSE, those are all sugars. And so if you don't have the lactase enzyme and you take dairy, that's where, a lot of, years and years of that irritation of continuing to eat dairy products when you're lactose intolerant creates such an irritation that there again is an opportunity for celiac disease, or for it to be diagnosed as irritable bowel syndrome, because lactose intolerance is another one of the symptoms that's in the 300 symptoms. In order to, if you got a majority of them, then that's more than likely what you're looking at. And then there's blood work and other tests and stuff like that. I go through all of that stuff when you pretty much have it figured out as to what's going on. Adjust your diet. A little tiny pill is going to come with side effects, and it's not good to just try to manipulate something and continue to give your gut something that it cannot digest, and it triggers an autoimmune response. Gosh, that's just so crazy. Why would you do that? It's craziness. So that fermentation up on the top, that's all those good bacterias. And so if you have a couple of you've started up another one while you're waiting on this one here to turn into the kefir, then what you need to have going is another batch of something, to make another 5 or 6 cups, or excuse me, about 9 or 10 cups of this kefir. So, or almond milk. The almond milk, with that, all you do is you don't add the probiotics to it, and you strain it real well, and just put it in the refrigerator and drink it really, really cold. Put it in a nice tall ball, quart glass jar with the lid, and so you can just shake that up real good, and you can use that in recipes or drinking it. It's really, really good if it's extremely cold.
I'm definitely going to try it, man.
Yeah. And so, but what you can do is you can use for 4 batches. So every 5th batch you're going to use at least 4 probiotic 11, and if you want, you can add the lactose lactase enzyme, a couple capsules of that, a couple capsules of lactobacillus. You can add those as well. And so that's every fifth one you're going to do that. In between there, you can take some of that fermentation on the top off, and you can use it in your next batch. And then that's enough to ferment another batch.
Wow.
And you can retake from the top of that 4 times.
Because, I mean, the whole time you were talking about this, man, because I grew up on a farm. And we used to have raw milk, and we'd make our yogurts and stuff like that. And, so I remember that process of, making and having to wait for that. Because back then I didn't understand why my mom would make us wait for that head on there to get, so heavy. And it was that weight that was a killer, 'cause
Yeah.
you wanted, but
Right.
I mean, now I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, you were making me flash. Back
Oh,
to the farm
back to
there,
being
boy.
a kid. Being a kid. That's great, because raw milk, there's so many more nutrients, in raw milk. And, heart disease is, I've talked about it before, it's a pasteurization. It's one of the things that contribute to that. And it's that exoenzyme that is produced during the pasteurization, that heat process creates that enzyme. And it acts like barnacles on our arteries, and it kind of catches everything that's inorganic that's in our diet, especially inorganic, minerals and trace minerals, as they come through, the bloodstream. They attach to those little barnacles, and then things start building up. So, and it's just not good. So, another thing that you can use, that off of the top that you skim off, you can also use that in smoothies. You can use it in puddings where you use, soaking flaxseed or chia seeds, and then blend those up with a little bit of water so that they're very, very smooth. And you can add those to things like, fresh fruit and stuff, where you're making a pudding that's not full of, sugar and things like that.
Really?
Yeah, so you can use psyllium husks. That's another thing. You can get psyllium husks off of kingdomhealing.com. And one thing that's nice about our quality control testing is that there's a lot of lead that can occur naturally with psyllium, and some of these other products on the shelves have varying levels of can have varying levels of lead, and ours does not. So, and I had talked on one of the back shows about the lab there at Nature Sunshine, and I stand corrected. I thought that the new lab was able to detect 1 drop of a toxin in the equivalent of, it was 2 or 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It's actually 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Wow.
So that's how sensitive the equipment is. And they're, the lab that they have and the lab at Hughes Research Center for Nutritional Efficacy, there's only 5 labs like that in the world, and they own 2 of them. So, so the sophistication and the sensitivity of the multi-million dollar laboratory detects, the equivalence. So they have the ability to detect 1 drop of a toxin in the equivalent of 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools of water.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So if there's anything in there, they're going to pick it up. So psyllium is also really good as a thickener. it will work as a thickener as well. And one thing is it doesn't have any taste to it, so it's not going to mask. You're not going to have to play around with trying to add something to it to cover the taste of it. There's no taste to it. So, okay. So the cultured milk recipe, it's really important that before bed every night that you drink about 4 ounces of this. An adult could drink 8 ounces of it. Give the children a half cup, 4 ounces of it. Have them drink it before they go to bed. If you want it kind of vanilla flavored, you could add some vanilla bean, organic vanilla bean flavoring. If the children want it a little sweeter, it's okay to add a little honey to that. Remember that honey is a good source of sugar, and it feeds healthy cells.
Dark chocolate.
Don't go putting white sugar in this. Don't put Caro syrup in that. White sugar, Caro syrup, or the high fructose corn syrup, because those are the types of sugars that will feed bad cells in the body.
Well, I got to tell you, I feel great after taking out the white sugars and the white flours out of my diet. I feel good. Bless you. I've had this 1 2-pound box of that turbinado.
Oh, the turbinado sugar.
Or the raw cane. And, just a 2-pound, I think between me and my daughter, we've had that for like 3 months now. I mean, that's how
good.
little sugar we've been really eating since we've gotten rid of that white sugar. So, feel the difference.
So this is a really good way to get into the gut all of the good bacteria that it needs in order for the immune system to function and for us to digest our food properly. So it's also, by taking it before you go to bed at night, it gives enough time in the gut to culture and do what it needs to do. So that's the nut milk kefir, and like I said, you can use other types of nuts as well. When you're making just almond milk, you can use 1.5 cups of raw almonds. Then you're going to soak them as well. I'm going through a sneezing attack here. Okay.
Well, you do that very quietly.
Okay. Okay, so almond milk. This will make 5 cups. 4 cups of alkaline water. That added to the 1.5 cups after you've soaked the raw almonds. You're going to add to that a teaspoon of vanilla extract made with vanilla bean, or you can use 1/8 of a teaspoon of grated vanilla bean. Then you're going to use 1.5 cups or 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of honey or pure maple syrup. If you want, you could add a pinch of cinnamon to that. So make sure that those almonds have been soaked, and put that into your blender. And you can add again half the water, so that you can blend it to a fine paste, and that'll take about 1 to 2 minutes on that one. Add your honey and the vanilla, add the remaining water, blend that all really good, strain it through a cheesecloth, and adjust the taste with honey and vanilla. And again, you can put a pinch of Himalayan salt into that as well, because it helps to bring the flavor out. So that's something that, again, you can add sesame seeds to this. so that with the sesame seeds, you're adding calcium to it. So that's a really, really easy recipe to get some real quality alternative to milk in your home. Okay, so the next thing I want to give you here is a really basic recipe for making about 5 cups of flour. And again, this is a good way to use your put your blender to work. And great. Okay, so your blender, you're going to start adding different types of grains. And you're going to stay away from grains like, wheat and barley and rye, corn, because again, it's because of the gluten content. And the ratio is 40 to 60, 40% grains, and other grains, and 60% starches. So with that, your starches, the starch, notes here. Okay, so for the things that you need for starches, like potato starch, sweet rice flour. Now, sweet rice flour is sticky rice.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's real common with your sushi, and they use that sticky rice and then roll them in the little sesame seeds. And then the flours, is sorghum flour that has a real nutty taste to it. You can use millet. You can use brown rice, and then, or else, the sweet rice, which is the sticky rice. So what you're going to do with that is, a basic one would be 1 cup of brown rice, and you can put that in your blender and just take the brown rice and turn it into flour by grinding it really well. Then you can use 1 cup of a jasmine rice or basmati rice. That has a really good flavor to it as well. And then 1.5 cups of the sticky rice, the sweet rice. So when you blend that all up, you've got about 3.25 cups of flour, and that falls under the 40% of the whole grain. Then for your starch side to add to the 3.25 cups is you can add 1/2 cup of potato starch. You can use 2/3 of a cup of tapioca. Blend that tapioca up. I mean, if you buy it already grinded, it's going to cost you more. Buy it in its whole, raw, organic, packaged, certified organic, non-GMO, and blend this stuff up yourself. It's really easy. Take your tapioca, blend 2/3 of that, or 2/3 of a cup of that, blend that up, measure yourself off 2/3 of a cup as you've turned it into flour. Add that in with everything, 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch. And again, it's cornstarch, so you have to make sure that when you buy your cornstarch that it's non-GMO cornstarch. The other thing that you can use is xanthan gum, but xanthan gum tends to be a little pricey. It's also derived from wheat, corn, or soy. So you want to make sure that, whatever xanthan gum that you do purchase, that it is non-GMO. But what you can use in place, so if you've got 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum, you can actually add 2 teaspoons of agar-agar, or you can add chia or flaxseed and blend that up, or gargum. It's a bulker like psyllium, ground flaxseed, but I would use the golden flaxseed. So, you blend that all up and then put that all into a big container with a good tight lid on it and shake that all up. And there's your flour mixture. And you can use it for whatever it is that you're preparing. Whether you're making bread or cookies, cakes, you can go ahead and use this recipe with that. So the other thing here I want to talk with you about a little bit more is this the celiac disease and the leaky gut. The reason for the recipe that I gave you is because it's so hard, especially when we're first told that, okay, you've got this problem, so you need to, give things up. We tend to be creatures of habit, and it's really hard to give things up. So that was the reason for the gluten-free recipe there. But hopefully, the thing is you need to know is it's important to eat as close to natural as possible. Our diet should be predominantly raw. We should have a very small amount of cooked foods. And the average American diet is not that way at all. It's, everything is cooked. And when you cook things, you diminish the nutrient value. You interfere with the enzyme properties, and all of these create a problem with their digestion ability. When we have things that are juiced, everything is broken down and it's all fractionated, and the body doesn't really have to do anything but just absorb the nutrients. And so there's a lot of diets out there that one really good one, and you can search the internet if you know what your blood type is the blood type diet. And there's just tons of information on the internet about the blood type diet. People who are A blood type, they tend to be the natural vegetarians. They tolerate fish well. They tolerate, grains better than the other blood types. If you're an O blood type, then the diet that's so popular right now, the paleo diet, the ketogenic diet, those are diets that are really, really good for O blood types, because O blood types are they're the meat eaters. They're the hunters. They are they need more exercise. Okay, is the O blood types, and a lot of meat. Their digestive tract is set up as such that they handle and digest these foods better. People who complain about, well, I don't eat meat because when I do eat meat, it seems like it sits in my stomach forever, or I get a stomach ache.
Or my gout flares up, or...
Yeah, that's because you don't have the enzymes present. You're more than likely an A, a B, or an AB.
Interesting.
Blood type.
So I'm an O type, O negative.
O's
so
do.
I love my meats.
O's do really well with meat and green leafy vegetables.
And it's funny, when I get cravings, I will usually reach for cashews and sunflower seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two things.
Fats. Good fats. And good fats, when you're craving stuff, sometimes it's just your blood sugar's a little out of whack. And fats will stabilize your blood sugar very, very well. So the ketogenic diet is extremely high in fat. And look at the Eskimos. Look at their diet. Their diet is so high in fat, and they don't have diabetes.
Right.
They don't have, their cancer is really low. It's like, so, that is, that's a diet that's good for people who can tolerate animal protein. Lots of eggs, lots of fish, lots of chicken, turkey, beef, buffalo. Always make sure that whatever meat that you're consuming is that it's naturally raised, it's hormone free, it's grass fed. Fish, you want it wild caught. You do not want farm raised fish, because a lot of the genetically modified grains, they are in the feed.
Right.
Okay, so the animal doesn't have the choice of selecting if they're going to get, organic corn, or they're going to get, crop dusted, genetically modified corn. Well, they're going to get crop dusted, genetically modified corn. That's what they're going to get.
Right.
And then we eat the animal. And then our liver has to process it. What do you think our body, our organs do? It's like they have a really hard time with processing these types of chemicals and stuff and adulterations in the food. And they not only lead to the animal getting sick. Well, it doesn't really matter because it's dead then by the time they process it. But, they're not well. And there are animals that are sick that, there's ranchers that, have kind of the belief and do believe that it's okay that cow had cancer. It was just on its leg. So you don't eat anything from the leg. It had cancer on its head, but it doesn't really matter. You're not eating that.
Yeah.
That's where holistic healing is so different. We look at the whole body. we look at the whole body. And we look at the whole body of if you're consuming an animal. You don't have cancer in one part of your body that's not affected by being carried through the bloodstream.
Right.
Which ultimately makes its way through. Yeah, it makes its way through the organs and stuff. So, I don't agree with that one at all. So, make sure that, if you are consuming animal protein, that, again, it is naturally raised, free of hormones, free of shots. There's even ranchers that they don't inoculate, and if they have to inoculate, it's a different air tag on that animal.
Right.
So they're not selling you that animal when you find someone who's very conscientious about what they're doing, and they do it because they believe it's the right thing to do, and they appreciate your knowledge of wanting to buy an animal that is healthy, a healthy one.
Right.
So, and then there's the vegetarians, the A blood types. Again, that's the blood type diet that you can search out. But everybody does well with vegetables.
Now,
and
is vegan and vegetarian the same thing?
Yeah, vegan. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just wondering.
Yeah, well, vegan. Yeah, and so. The thing is that everyone does well with vegetables. And we need to remember that all vegetables that grow beneath the ground, including peas and corn, have a higher sugar level. So they're a starch. Okay? And starches convert to sugar. So if you have a problem with diabetes type 2, or if you're diabetes type 1, juvenile diabetes, you don't do real well with a lot of fruits in your diet and a lot of vegetables that grow beneath the ground, as well as peas and corn. Okay, so because you need to have the insulin to convert that to the glucose. So, we have a product that's just been introduced, and they've done a lot of studies on it, and it's the berberine IR. And the berberine IR is, the IR stands for insulin resistance.
Okay.
So it's a product that initially its purpose is to help to regulate the glucose in the system and to help to regulate the liver with the releasing of glucose instead of just a big major spill of it, which then calls for the pancreas to release insulin to deal with that. And so if that's not something that, if you have a problem with your pancreas, then you're looking at doing some more insulin in order to take care of that big dump and spill of the sugar. So this helps to regulate that. But the other cool thing that it does is it has it's able to help with the healing and strengthening of the intestinal wall. And what that is called, when the intestinal wall starts to lose its permeability and leaky gut, what it does is when it loses that tight weave wall, when that starts loosening up and it's losing its integrity and it's being degraded from all of this constant inflammation and reactions to all of these grains. I mean, you look at the food chart, and the majority, they want you to have a day is just major overload on grains.
Yeah, I haven't seen the new chart, so I can't comment on that.
It's 6, 8, 10. But they're still calling for too many grains. And since we're looking at one in approximately 133 Americans, that's just diagnosed with celiac disease. That's not talking about leaky gut and colitis and Crohn's and, irritable bowel syndrome. Hey, they're all kind of the same animal.
Right.
It's all the same animal. You're going to help with balancing and working on feeding and giving what's needed so that heals. But it doesn't mean that even if you heal that up, you're going to be able to digest these things. You're not. It's autoimmune. It's something that it can be genetic with you as well. Kids that are lactose intolerant early on, lactose intolerance is a good way to kind of key in that there's going to be some other sensitivities as they get older with the digestive tract. And trying to break down and utilize this excess gluten is part of it.
Because I've been noticing more and more people seem to be getting diagnosed with Crohn's.
Well, it's all this inflammation in the intestinal tract. And it has to do with the immune system. We don't want to use things to force the immune system to work. We want to feed it. And that was the purpose of giving you the almond milk kefir recipe, is because that's the best food for the digestive tract. Now, if you really want to kick it up and add some good things to that, get just freeze-dried powdered colostrum and add a tablespoon per 2 cups of what you're making, and blend that in the blender so that that's blended real well. And I'll tell you what, a good place to get freeze-dried raw colostrum, one of the places is the veterinary at the feed stores, back in the refrigerated sections.
Really?
Because they've got to give that, but you want it pure. You don't want it added. You don't want it added with a bunch of mineral ratios for a calf. Okay, because then that's really out of balance for you. But if you can get just the pure powdered colostrum, otherwise Kingdom of Healing, there's the colostrum product, and then because it all comes from bovine, is where it comes from, which is cows. I challenge a lot of this, whereas they say it's goat colostrum. I mean, you realize, wow, how many goats you gotta hook up to milk for the colostrum in order to get enough of it. And how many you'd have to have in order to take care of it. But it's you can get it, and you're going to pay more for it. So because of yield to yield. Okay, so but we've got the colostrum, and then we have the colostrum with immune factors, and that has the healing mushrooms in it, reiki, shiitake, maitake, all of those things that get those the natural killer cells go into the body. The natural killer cells in the immune system, they are the only cells of the immune system. The NK cells are the only ones that can identify abnormal cells in the body.
Interesting.
Is the NK cells. So it's really important that you have these good gut enzymes and probiotics going on, because for the rest of the immune system to identify abnormal cells, because abnormal cells will hide themselves in a protein shield. So if you've got this really strong, you're introducing the kefir into the system to build that gut, the colonies up with the good bacteria, because remember I told you when I was doing the immune system one that we have more cells in the actual immune system than all of the trillions of cells that we hear about in the rest of the body. We have more, 10 times more in the immune system, and that's why the immune system is so important. But we're going to have more and more problems with immunity and immune system problems, and more diagnoses of colitis, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, irritable bowel, leaky gut. So again, that leaky gut is when you're literally losing toxins through the intestinal wall. And these toxins make their way into the bloodstream and make their way through seeping through the intestinal wall to interfere with all of the fluid in the abdominal cavity by these toxins. So it's called autointoxication.
It's the reason that it's contained in there.
Yeah, well, in the intestine, yeah. So the berberine is something that strengthens and builds that wall back up and makes it strong.
Okay.
So berberine is really an important supplement to add to any type of severe bowel problems like this going on. So if you've been diagnosed with colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, okay, so if any of these have been mentioned to you that you're dealing with them, the best way to feed and give the nutrients to the body so that you can get well as soon as possible, and giving the nutrients so that the body has its ability to correct itself, that is something that you want to get added into your diet. The next thing I kind of wanted to go through were some of these symptoms. Berberine can also be used with intestinal soothe and build, which is used for a lot of intestinal inflammation. And, excuse me,
Something's got you, huh?
I need to take a break here.
Okay.
Can we do like a 10 minutes? I'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, everybody? Sorry.
Hold on for that. So, while she's going on to her break here, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to do something that we just don't do. And I'm going to go ahead and load a song here. Because taking a break here, right? Well, you know what? I got a good one here. We just had some song submissions anyway, so, and actually this guy is pretty doggone good. Have you heard of Joe Bonamassa? Yeah, he's awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and this one. Think you're okay? We'll see how it... I tell you what... Oh, well, here, let me... You are. Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just kind of going through some sneezing and then a little bit of coughing, and then my voice was going. And,
right? I was like, oh, no.
Wow, it's like, okay, hello, what's going on here? Okay, so I want to go through some of these symptoms. And they're really, really long. They have to do with celiacs and a lot of misdiagnosing, or maybe not even so much as misdiagnosing as there's so many intestinal issues these days. You know, one of the signs is the abdominal distension. You know, you eat something with grains in it, have a sandwich, and you notice that pretty soon your abdominal area is distended. And then you have abdominal pain. That's a good sign that there's something wrong with the digestion of the grains that you're consuming and putting into your body, that your body's struggling. It makes it really difficult to absorb fats, absorb calcium and iron as well. That alopecia, losing your hair, that can be related to celiac disease. The anemia, an inability to process folic acid, can be due to gluten intolerance. Anemia, constant anemia, anxiety, asthma, arterial sclerosis, hyperactive, the ADD, ADHD. It's classified as an autoimmune disorder. And so the purpose of the kefir is to give the immune system the food that it needs so that it is able to culture, colonize, and correct the imbalance. The Hodgkin's disease, Hodgkin's lymphoma, blurred vision, bone pain, muscle pain, a lot of different cancers. Candida is... these are all some of the list of symptoms in the diagnosing of the celiac disease. So, and then there's people out there that want to make fun of people about doing a gluten-free diet. The gluten-free diet is literally to save your life. If you have a gluten intolerance, your blood sugar is out of balance. You end up with developing insulin resistance, weight gain that just seems to be out of control, or you're losing a lot of weight loss, excessive amounts of gas, GERDs is another problem, eczema, edema, lymphatic swelling, depression, inability to concentrate, sensitivity to noticing that you're having a lot of food allergies, excessive fatigue, itchy skin rash that won't seem to go away, kidney stones, lactose intolerance. Then there's the leaky gut syndrome, liver enzymes elevated, multiple sclerosis, muscle wasting, muscle spasming, muscle pain and tenderness. You just think of all kinds of different things, all kinds of symptoms that will respond favorably to getting wheat out of your diet, wheat, barley, corn, soy, rye, getting that stuff out of your diet. You'll notice a dramatic improvement in how you're feeling. If your hair's thinning out, thyroid problems, tremors, reoccurring urinary tract infections, vitiligo. That's where you see people where they start losing the pigmentation of their skin. Okay, that's vitiligo, and that is in the symptoms of the categories of having a gluten intolerance. Okay.
Very interesting, because I just ran across somebody yesterday.
Constantly sick to your stomach all the time. So, okay, best thing that I suggest is get those grains out of your diet, because you can sustain life with protein and vegetables and fruits. And I want to go through, I've talked about this before, the foods that are really good for the bloodstream are your foods that are red. Your grapes, your red apples, cherries. Cherries are also very good for the cardiovascular system. The beets, red beets, those are good. Everything that's green, those are your minerals and your trace minerals. Things that are yellow are very good for the digestive tract. So when we look at the fruits and we think of pineapple is incredible for the digestive tract. And it is so full of natural occurring enzymes that helps you to digest food down. And, when we juice things, when they're liquid, it is, the stomach doesn't really have to do anything. It just absorbs that into the system. So, if we're dealing with liver problems, you'd want to juice, and you always make sure that every time that you're juicing, that you're always using certified organic. You don't juice anything unless it's certified organic. You stop and think about, you wouldn't sit down to eat that amount of food at one sitting. And if you're consuming all that food that's been crop dusted, you're concentrating those chemicals that are going into the body. One thing that helps to bind those type of chemicals and pull them out of the body is algin. You can find that on kingdomofhealing.com. Charcoal is another thing. The bowel detox has the Enviro Detox has the charcoal in that, and the milk thistle, and that helps to protect the liver when you're trying to do a detox. The charcoal absorbs those poisons and carries it out of the body. Algin, kelp, dulse. Those are things also from a radioactive standpoint. They feed the thyroid, and the thyroid is not only the metabolizer, but it's also what burns the metabolic waste is reliant on a very high functioning thyroid. So one of the ones that you can make from a veggie standpoint and is you're going to take 2 beets, and you need to include the green tops on them. They're loaded with minerals and trace minerals. Just wash everything really well. If you've got the water machine, you can soak these and clean them in the acidic water and get particles of just dirt and little bugs or whatever off of all of that, and clean that. And if you don't have an alkaline water machine, I really strongly suggest you give Greg a call. Greg at 775-432-2861, and that alkaline water machine runs $8.95. If you let him know that you heard about it on Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo, he'll give you an additional $25 off on that instead of the $8.70. And it compares beautifully. It kind of outshines that $4,200 unit out there that everybody's selling. The price of a good used car, I've always said, and I love mine. I love it. So I would give Greg a call. Tell him you heard about it on Kingdom of Healing. And again, that's 775-432-2806. Because when you're making these juices, you're going to need to add a little bit of water to that. And you want to be able to use a high alkaline water because we're predominantly water, and the best way to get that system into pH balance is by eating alkaline foods, drinking alkaline water, and making sure that you have some berries and stuff in your diet. Berries, they tend to be a little acidic. They're not in the alkaline range with the fruits. So you're going to use 2 beets and the green tops. You're going to use 2 carrots with the green tops as well. You can use a half of a sweet potato, and then take a handful of the field greens, the organic field greens. You can get that where it's mixed and has some of the spinach in it as well. But I would do like 1 cup of greens, and that can be the field greens. You can add spinach to it, a little parsley. You can add some watercress. We hear a lot about kale being so good for you. Watercress is actually number 1. It is the most potent antioxidant green that we have is watercress. Add a cup to a cup and a half of high alkaline water, and just blend that all up in your blender to liquid form, and then drink that within a couple of hours. Okay, or that's enough for a couple of people. Another one that is really very tasty is using apples as a base. And you take 3 apples and about 3/4 of a whole pineapple, and chop that up real good, and add 3 mangoes to that. Make sure they're really ripe. It's much easier to work with the mangoes when they're nice and ripe. Otherwise, they don't pull away from that seed very well, that center seed. You can add a banana to it. You can add a couple, 2 or 3 kiwis. And then here's where, you've got this good base going on of the fruits, that you can add like 6 broccoli flowerets, the flowers on the top of the broccoli to that. You can add a half a cup of spinach, 1/4 of a cup of watercress. You just play around with it a little bit. When you're juicing, my advice is don't use more than 1 leaf of kale. It's just, Anything more than really one leaf is kind of too much. Okay, so a little bit of wheatgrass or barley grass. You can cut a half an inch off of that, like a 4x4 square, half an inch of that. And that right there is, there's a lot of mega nutrition in that. And again, you're going to add, you may need to add, just use enough alkaline water adding to that so that when you're blending it up, you have a nice movement of that fluid, of all that juice. Okay.
Can I ask a question while we're
Sure.
on this pH thing?
Oh, okay.
I've been kind of holding it since the beginning of this.
Oh, huh.
Okay, is there... Now, you were saying 3.0 is death, right?
3.5.
3.5 is death. Is there... Okay, is there an average... I don't know if this is the right question I'm asking, but... Okay, you're saying that you should stay up at 6.0 and above, right?
No. 7.0 to 7.5. 8.0 is absolutely max. You don't.
Okay, so but
you don't want to be too. It's not good to be too high alkaline, either.
So is there an average, like if somebody that doesn't
We
pay
average
attention, what would their average pH be of somebody that didn't pay attention to it one way or another? Or is that like a loaded question?
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of variables to
There's
that,
a lot of variables because people eat differently. So, say someone who consumes a lot of fruits and vegetables in their diet, they're probably going to have 7.5 with, the morning urine. Morning urine should be 6.5 to 7.5. I mean, 7.5 is perfect.
Okay.
But 6.5 would be acceptable for first morning. You got a lot of die-off and stuff going on. The body's busy healing and repairing and dumping what it doesn't need when we're sleeping. That's why it's so important to get your rest. If you go without too much sleep, it oxidizes cells. It's not good. The body can't do the cleaning it needs to do because you're busy up moving around. It needs its energy for that. So, that pH balance, certainly somebody who drinks a lot of carbonated beverages, consumes a lot of heavy processed meats that maybe have nitrates and nitrites in them, and a lot of, salt, white salt in that, or they've flavor enhancers, and a lot of times there's sugar lurking behind that stuff. So, and they don't eat vegetables. Their vegetable is French fries. Okay, so they're not going to have a good pH.
So then one of those energy drinks could really just send their body into chaos, right?
and they do. There's a lot of hospital visits daily across the country with people that come in symptomatic, serious symptoms. I mean, and it's got to be serious symptoms to get you over into the ER. Right. Anyway, you're questioning. It's like, okay, am I going to make it? When you're having symptoms like that. So, heart palpitations and your chest hurting, and you just can't seem to mentally get going, and the top of your head is all tingling, and you feel like your blood is draining out of you. That's blood sugar, low blood sugar. So. When those kind of things happen, and if your consumption is, these different types of energy drinks, and you're not paying attention to what you're eating, you can get in trouble. It's just going to bring you farther down, that lower bottom part of that acid pH. So, back to the question about, the variables. What would your average person be? Well, it can really be anything under 8%, 8.0 pH. And ideally, like I said, is you want to be 7 to 8.0, 7.5 to 8.0. That's really, really ideal. That is an environment, that's a terrain environment that the foods that you're eating are feeding your body. And remember what I said too on that early show is, and I've mentioned it a few other times, is that, there's a real narrow spectrum of pH where your body can even absorb specific minerals and trace minerals and nutrients. Like if you're at 6.0, your body's not going to uptake iodine. So if you're at 6.0 and you're taking an iodine supplement, but you're at 6.0, well, I may as well keep taking the iodine supplement. Because you're not going to.
It's almost like with plants, you're getting a nutrient lock. Almost.
Yeah, it's not. You can't utilize it. You can't uptake it. It's not being used. Okay, so your calcium, your magnesium, your silicon, your sulfur, your iron, your phosphorus, your nitrogen, all of these things that you need to have, they are not being uptaken into the system if your pH is, say, under 6.5. You get into 7.0, 7.5, 7.75 at 8. All of these things that you're doing, like with juicing, all this mega nutrition, all of this good quality fats, avocado, coconut oil, olive oil, butter, those things, they're all utilized. All the nutrients, all your fat-soluble vitamins from there, your A, your D, your E, those things are all being absorbed into the bloodstream when you're in that narrow pH of where you should be. So your body is utilizing and the cell is uptaking those nutrients. So if you're below that and you throw a multivitamin in your mouth, but you go out and you eat nothing but deep fried food or carbonated beverages, you don't have the fruits and vegetables in your diet, it's really not doing you much good. Because it is really important what you consume.
Oh, yeah.
And it's definitely what you do the majority of the time that's important. And like Dr. Jensen used to say, what you eat today will walk and talk tomorrow.
Well,
so if you can't build good blood and a good nerve and energy supply by what you're consuming, how are you going to feel the next day?
Right.
You're not going to want to get out of bed. You're going to be foggy thinking. You're not going to have any energy, no motivation. Take a look at what you consumed the day before.
Say, I do consume those, but I can't live without those.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you can. It's a choice, and I mean, it really is a choice. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I always thought, after I changed my diet, I tell you, I quit eating fast food. It's amazing how much how
much better you feel.
Mm-hmm. I did feel better, but I was feeling well. You know what I'm saying? I felt better than better. I felt well.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that's a good feeling to have.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I haven't 100% stuck to that,
Mm-hmm.
I've a lot I still do,
Mm-hmm.
I just refuse to eat and drink a lot of things.
Right,
but
right.
My body, thanks me.
Right, and you notice the difference, and it only takes 3 to 4 days to start noticing a difference when you change what you're consuming. And you can use with juicing, you can take a baseline where you can use apples as that base to build upon. You can use pineapple as a base. You can use carrots. Those people that are A blood types, they do really, really well on all vegetables and fruits. They're the natural vegetarians. They do good on the grains. A blood types, natural vegetarians. So, a carrot base is really good. Apples, using that as the base, and again, organic. You're getting a lot of vitamin A. You're getting all your Bs, your B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, B9, your B12, B17, vitamin C, D, E, K, your calcium. So it's just a great way to... malic acid is another thing that apples give, and those are very good for... Malic acid is very good for cleansing of the gallbladder. It's very good for the liver. And mulberries are highly nutritious, and those dark purple berries, to where they're almost black. They're loaded with antioxidants. Mulberries are something that very, very high anti-cancer fruit. Mulberries. Mix those with blackberries and blueberries. Pomegranates are good to toss in. Just peel it. And you don't have to tediously take all those little red seeds, little berries out of there. You can just try scooping them out, the little areoles. You can scoop them out of there, but you can have a little bit of that skin in between. It's high bioflavonoids. It's like vitamin C, an orange. You peel the orange and it has that white covering around it. Eat some of that. I know it tastes a little bitter, but it's loaded with bioflavonoids, and vitamin C with bioflavonoids. Vitamin C helps you to absorb and utilize your iron. Okay, vitamin C is also needed. It's the collagen, it's the stickiness, it's the glue that holds us together. But what makes that collagen is the bioflavonoids. So always have you always find vitamin C with bioflavonoids on the Kingdom of Healing, kingdomofhealing.com. So one of the things that I think is really important is that you don't start feeding your children too young. A lot of these grains and stuff, these baby cereals, are given to them before they get their little eye teeth in. When they get their little eye teeth in, that's usually about a year or 18 months. That's when they can handle grains. So what happens when you start trying to introduce that early on, because your baby's fussy all the time, and you're told to, give them some cereal to, kind of stay with them a little longer. No, you need to bump up the quality of your milk if you're nursing by adding some good fats in the diet: butter, avocado, olive oil, coconut oil. You need more, greens, chlorophyll. Alfalfa is excellent for enriching the milk. So if you have, and I've talked about that before, if you have real opaque looking milk, you're going to have a baby that's not satisfied. If you have milk that when you put it on your hand, it looks like a drop of rich cream, then that's really healthy, good fat content to that milk. And you're not going to make so much quantity as you will just make good quality. And that's what it's all about, is making really good quality milk. You don't have to have them nursing so that pretty soon you're carrying enough milk to feed triplets. Okay, by that stimulation to produce more. So you want things like alfalfa and greens. Just stay away from parsley and sage. Parsley and sage will dry your milk up. There's a wonderful tea made by traditional medicinals, and it's called Mother's Milk. Excellent product, excellent tea. It enriches that milk. So you want to start the baby first at about 8 months old with vegetables. And you start with the yellow ones first. So you can start with squash. You're going to do carrots. Sweet potatoes. Those are for the digestive tract. Then you're going to move on to the greens. And introduce them singly by themselves for a couple of days. Feed them one particular vegetable for a couple of days when you're starting them on food, to make sure that there's no reaction to that. And if after 2 full days of that and there's no reaction, no skin, no ear problems, no mucus problems, fussiness, bottom breaks out, anything like that, then move on to the next yellow or orange vegetable. But start with the vegetables first. You start with vegetables first, you're going to have a child that tends to eat more vegetables. When you start babies out on fruits first, they're not real inclined to like their vegetables when you introduce them to them, because everything has just been so wonderful. It's just all sweet and yummy. And of course, you want to, you've always been able to get away from the baby foods, those pre-made baby foods. Make your own, and that way for a fact they're organic. There's a lot of things with a few of the baby food lines that have, they've come across with, levels of things in there that absolutely should not be in there, and the levels are too high, and we wonder why we have such illness with children. 50 diagnosed a day with cancer, 7-8 a day dying.
Wow.
We have all this autism. We've got all this attention deficit. We've got all the ADD, ADHD. We've got kids that just can't keep up in class. And so, it's really, it is what you're feeding them that makes all the difference. As far as meat goes, I personally didn't introduce meat until, my children were like 2. Okay, so it wasn't something where they were eating, eating meat and stuff when they were, a year old, year and a half old. It wasn't happening. So you've just got to build that good, strong, system up, and that's how you begin with it. When you add things that they can't digest, it creates mucus conditions. It creates inflammatory conditions. It creates situations where, too much mucus, too much inflammation. They've got respiratory stuff going on. They have tonsil stuff going on. They have ear problems going on. So a lot of the juicing, you can just take a look at things that you really do like. If you have a child that doesn't like their vegetables, I'm telling you, it's been the best thing with my granddaughter that I'm raising. That she's 9. She didn't like vegetables. The only way she gets them, they're juiced. She doesn't even know they're there. If she sees vegetables, it doesn't matter what it is, she will not eat it.
Or if she listens to this show.
Yeah, she will not eat it. And the commercial on the beans that, you've seen that commercial where it's the new vegetable. These little kids eating it. She won't eat the beans either. She won't. She likes meat and fruit. And so, the juicing is a great way to get those vegetables in there. And you can completely hide, 5 to 7 flowers of the broccoli tops. And broccoli is just so good for you. It's a cruciferous vegetable, so it's really good for the immune system. She's, she doesn't even know they're there. You can add grapes. Grapes are another one of those things that you've got to make sure you're buying organically. You have to make sure that you're buying organically. So, if you start with a good base, that the fruits and vegetables, the fruits, pineapple, apples, blend them together or use them individually and build from there. You'll find that you kind of get into doing this, and there's a lot of times you'd really rather just go juice something than eat.
Wow.
It is kind of what ends up happening. And it's very fulfilling. You can add to that, you can add a teaspoon or two or a tablespoon of coconut oil and blend that up, and that really satisfies. It brings that fat content up, and it's a good fat. It's a fat that if your skin is dry outwardly, you need more fat in your diet. A lot of times skin problems, it's a lack of fat, but it's got to be internally. We see outwardly, what we're seeing outwardly is a reflection of what's going on internally. So, very, very important to make sure that you got good quality fats. Or you can throw flax seeds in it. There's a good source of essential fatty acids as well. It doesn't taste really good. I've never tried it, but I certainly wouldn't want to. But I don't know, maybe for the moms that do really like the cod liver oil, that tastes so bad, it's just horrible.
What about
cod liver oil? Well, coconut oil is perfect. It's wonderful. That's wonderful to use that. There's a joke as far as cod liver oil. You better have a lot of pineapples in that to take care of that one. So, want to add some extra calcium into that. Sesame seeds. You can put those sesame seeds into your juicing as well, and making magnesium. Throw some black walnuts in that. Iodine. That's iodine and magnesium as well. And magnesium, that's the relaxant element. So we can get a lot of different minerals and trace minerals into our diet by studying, the properties of a lot of the foods. And next week, I'm going to start going through a little more information on herbs. But with today's show, there's I can't encourage you enough to get searching on the internet. You can pull up pH charts that will show you what's acidic, what is alkaline.
Okay.
You can go back to that early show, and there's a lot of them that I talk about, and I go through what they are. Search out the different diets. There's the old what's it called? The food combining, where you didn't eat meat and starches together. Meats were only consumed with vegetables.
Okay.
You only consumed meat with vegetables. Fruits were always eaten alone. Those were always before a heavier meal, because it doesn't take much to digest down fruit. And so when you stop and think about how you feel if you eat a dinner and then you have dessert afterwards, even if that dessert is made with just fruits, what happens is you have that food that takes longer to digest in the stomach, and you add something like an apple or a couple slices of pineapple on top of that food. What happens is it ferments. Okay, it ferments. It's in an internal body temperature of 98.6, and it's doing a slow cook. And it ferments because it's digested down and out of the stomach in less than half an hour.
Wow.
Don't put it on top of food that's going to take 2, 3, 4 hours to digest down. Okay, so you're going to create some alcohol with doing that. The liver, it's what's going to happen. It's going to be made into some alcohol, and you're going to take a nap. That's why you're going to be really tired. So starches should be eaten with vegetables. Starches should not be eaten with meats, and they should not be eaten with fruits. So there's that diet, and that diet really still applies as well. If you are able to eat the variety of different food groups, B blood types. The B blood types are the ones who are able to have a little bit of everything. O's are pretty much limited to nuts, vegetables that grow above the ground. There are fruits that they can have, but most of them are in a neutral category. You want to find the things that are beneficial. Neutral are things that you can have, and then when you look that up on the different blood type, the diets, it'll have the little A for to avoid, because it is something that your particular blood chemistry in your body will not tolerate well. Okay. Then there's the little B that's beneficial. So those are the things that you can eat the most of because they're highly beneficial. And then there's the N for the neutral ones that you can eat them, and as long as it's within reason, it's not going to make any difference one way or the other with how you feel. But you throw in those ones that have the little A to avoid, and you will notice a difference in how you feel. So you can look up the blood type diet for O blood type, A blood type, B blood type,
I'm definitely going
and AB. Dr. Giordano on that. He's a naturopath. Then the ketogenic diet. That's just a spin. There's a lot of these diets that really are a spin off of the early days when the doctor who did the initial research on this and the initial concept on putting this all down and realizing what was going on was Dr. Robert Atkins.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Atkins is the one who really, with the documentation and watching how his, he was a cardiologist and how his heart patients were doing. When he put them on a diet of higher protein and higher fat and lower carbohydrates, the ones that had heart problems that were diabetic, type 2, their diabetes went away. So, a lot of people over the years, since the late 60s, early 1970s or so, or 70s, have embraced it in a lot of different names that they, call that diet. But the key is protein. And we need protein. Every cell in the body needs protein. We need to eat protein for the amino acids. The amino acids are what get in there, and they're the building blocks. They are what feed and build and strengthen every cell and tissue in the body. So we've got to have protein. We just have to have a protein that does well with your body. Hemp protein is an awesome protein as far as essential fatty acids, and it is an extremely high protein value. And so that is vegan. It's 100% vegan. And for those of you out there that do not eat meat, it's okay to not eat meat. But you've got to make sure that you got your protein in your diet and that those protein levels are up. And chia seeds are also a wonderful source of protein. The hemp protein. Another thing is some of the drinks. And kingdomofhealing.com, for those that are on the ketogenic diet, they only suggest that you have, 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates a day. The Nature's Harvest has 10 grams of carbohydrates. And when you look at that, there is gluten-free grains. There's amaranth, quinoa. There's flaxseed. There is matcha that is extremely high in protein. There's so many nutrients. There's fruits. There's vegetables. It's incredible to read what is on that package, and it's delicious. It is absolutely delicious, and it only has 10 grams of carbohydrates. And you can actually, by adding a teaspoon of slippery elm, which is high in minerals and trace minerals as well, and mucilagenic, it's a good bulking agent. You can also add like a teaspoon or two of psyllium to that. A lot of times when I make that up, I'll use 12 ounces of water with just 2 scoops, and then add add some other things into it, and it's absolutely palatable. It comes in individual packets as well, so if you're traveling and you want to continue to eat good or stay on your ketogenic diet, or just to have something to travel with, that, because I'm going to tell you, as you get more to the east, you start losing places to buy organic juices. But the other thing to remember with those organic juices, just like I've talked about with the juicing, is that it loses its nutrient value rather quickly. And a lot of these things that you're buying off the shelf, their nutrient levels are not what they were 2 or 3 days before when it was made. And that's if you're lucky enough to get it that quick. So always juicing fresh in your kitchen is always the best. If you're traveling, there's the Love and Peas that it's about 16 grams of carbohydrates. So if you're on that ketogenic diet, the 20 to 30, you see where you can get in 20 to 30 carbs. That is just a wide variety of a complex of different nutrient sources, and high nutrition, mega nutrition in that, and you can get that through those 2 products. And like I said, they do have them in individual little bags that you can add to your water. Makes it really easy. But the best thing is looking at your diet, eating things as close to natural as possible, trying to eat as much fresh produce, vegetables, fruits. Your meats need to just be broiled or steamed. And if you do have, grains in your diet, make sure that it's, gluten-free grains. You can do, steam them. Steaming works very well. Steaming works really well for the vegetables. Eat as close to natural as possible. And the fats in your diet need to be, avocados are wonderful. Avocado oil, avocados, babies, babies do what's wonderful in those early foods when you're introducing new foods. Little ones usually absolutely love avocados. And my granddaughter that's 3 is not a big, food's made and cooked up and stuff. Nah, she'd really rather have, she loves green pepper strips and red pepper strips and yellow peppers. And, there's a lot of vegetables she likes. She loves her fruits. She loves avocados. Yeah, so, and she's very healthy. She's very, very well. She has incredible muscle structure and strength for her age, along with height and attitude. But, it's just things were, and she's going to be 3, and she wears like a size 4. Whoa. She's tall, muscular, strong. It's been very healthy. So next week we're going to start talking a little bit more about herbs, and if you've got any questions or you need some answers, post them on the Facebook page, Kingdom Healing. Kingdom Healing on Facebook. Just search that, and it'll bring it up. And until next week, you all take care. God bless, and talk to you then. Bye-bye.